Life has gotten really expensive lately, and yes, I do have the opportunities to test out the latest and greatest when it comes to the hardware on smartphone cameras, but I fully understand that if you need to buy a phone, you might want to save a little bit of money on that. And that's why I often advocate for not buying the latest and greatest and sometimes say, buy last year's flagship, or like I showcased, the Xiaomi 13 Pro versus the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. For most people, a phone like that will be perfectly fine and being capable of capturing some stunning shots. But what if you want to save a little bit more and buy something different? Let's talk about the Nothing Phone 2A. Now, this isn't going to be a very in-depth video. This is basically me showcasing the simple principle of a phone like that. It's 180 euros. You need to understand you're not gonna get the latest and greatest when it comes to it. It's last year's budget phone. And for 180, you shouldn't expect too much. If you have a little bit more, yes, buy something like the Xiaomi 13 Pro, because simply put, that will outperform a phone like that quite easily and substantially when it comes to the camera capabilities of it. That being said, let me showcase what this Nothing Phone 2A can do nonetheless when it comes to the camera. When we talk about mobile photography, it comes in all kinds of shapes and forms. Sure, you will find that phones with a higher price tag offer more possibilities, larger sensors and therefore also a more natural depth of field or superior video quality. Some come even with attachable lens or beautifully designed and surprisingly useful camera kits. All of it aimed for one thing, elevating your mobile photography. But then there's a phone like the Nothing Phone 2A, and it doesn't have any of those tools. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't come with decent hardware. You get a 50 megapixel main camera with a sensor size of 1/1.56 inches. And then the second one is a 50 megapixel camera as well. It's the ultra wide, though with a smaller 1/2.76 inch sensor size. Those numbers don't exactly scream flagship, but for this kind of budget, they're more than capable enough in delivering some perfectly fine images, at least on paper. As I showcase some point of view photography, where this really comes to play is the opportunity to experiment with styles. Sure, the controls might be limited and even more so, annoying at times, but when it comes to shooting in black and white, it still carries a certain character to it. And if the image isn't in perfect quality, those flaws, those slightly overexposed shots or the poor shadow control can actually add to the mood itself. More contrast, more grid, that's the charm of black and white. But with budget phones like this, it's key to understand their limits, knowing where the boundaries are, that you can turn into a creative advantage. And sometimes you can just cheat the whole thing, using portrait mode to simulate some depth in the shot itself, mimicking the look of a larger sensor, even when there isn't one in reality. But again, that comes down to playing around and finding its weakness and its strength. Now, when it comes to color photography on these shots, it's not the most refined out there. Some colors can come a bit off and a bit odd, but surprisingly, it avoids that oversaturation of colors, especially the greens, that plagues many budget devices. And if you explore and really look for the moments, shots like this of the church through the iron bars, using that foreground as an element to add a natural depth of field in the shot, the results can be quite striking. At the end of the day, it isn't always about the gear. Sometimes it's about how you use it, and of course, what you are seeing with the shot itself. The capabilities are there, and for 180 euros, this can deliver some really nice shots. But you just have to know its weakness and its strength.
Okay, 30 frames per second. You cannot switch the recording. You can crop in, but of course it's naturally not there. Colors seem okay, although quite a bit more saturated, and that's a lot warmer than reality. Alright, 4K, 30 frames per second, auto wide. Definitely doesn't look as good in terms of quality though. Front facing camera limited to 1080p and 60 frames per second. Doesn't do 4K naturally. Not surprising for the price that you are paying for it.
So at the end, for 180 euros, you shouldn't expect too much. There are limitations. Macro, for instance, is very limited, especially if you wanted to simply zoom in. It just doesn't work that well. Flower shots, it really depends, because the minimum focus distance just isn't that great. When it comes to the camera, it's going to work for certain situations. You have that ultra wide that allows you to, of course, have a wider field of view, and you have your main sensor, but apart from that, don't expect anything substantially crazy from it. It's going to be able to deliver some pictures that are perfectly fine for most people, perfectly fine for social media, and perfectly fine to share with your friends. For 180 euros, I don't think it's a bad deal whatsoever. Of course, design-wise, that's something you have to decide for yourself. And of course, the unboxing experience is basically the phone itself, and you don't really get anything else beside that, which is really poor from nothing, if you ask me, when it comes to that unboxing experience. Either way, let me know what you think about the 180 euro budget for a phone like this. Do you think it's worth it for you? Or do you think you should save up a little bit more and get something like the Xiaomi 13 Pro or something around that price range of 300 euros? Either way, before we leave, I really want to thank my members. Thank you so much for the support. And of course, if you want to become a member, you can by clicking join below somewhere. Either way, have a good one and talk to you guys in the next.